everyone. So today's practice is going to be a gentle yoga practice, and I have Andy here who's going to be helping me demonstrate some of the poses, or the entire practice actually. And we're going to start this one on our backs, so go ahead and lay down. And today's practice is going to be a core focus practice, but we're going to get to the entire body. So you could start like this in Shavasana if you wanted to. Another option would be constructive rest. So you could place a bend in your knees, soles of the feet on the floor, and then separate the feet a little bit wider apart and let the knees knock in. So the reason you do that is so that you have a little bit less tension in the low back, but go ahead and find a comfortable starting spot. And close the eyes. Let's begin by taking a deep breath in through the nose, and exhale, let it go. Take one more just like that. Deep breath in through the nose. Exhale, let it go. Good. And now seal the lips and just allow the breath to flow naturally in and out of the nose. Noticing the pace of the breath. Noticing the depth of the breath. And then begin to notice the body filling with air from bottom to top. And so as you breathe in, feeling the belly rise, the ribs expand, maybe a little lifting and spreading of the collarbones. And as you exhale, everything narrows, relaxes. See if we can slow the breath down even a little bit more. So why don't we take a box style breath today? And so just stay with me. On your next inhale, inhale for the count of 4. Hold the breath at the top for the count of 4. Release the breath out of the nose for the count of 4. And then hold again at the bottom for the count of 4. Begin again, and we'll take a few rounds of breath just like that. And noticing how you feel along the way here as well. So notice what it feels like as you draw the breath in and the body is full. Notice what it feels like to hold on to that breath. And noticing what it feels like as the breath leaves the body. One more round. And after you complete that last round, just start to breathe naturally again in and out of the nose. Good. And then we'll begin to invite some movement in. So walk your feet a little bit closer together here, and bring the heels in a little bit closer to the sit bones. Good. And so for this one, we're going to be using a block. If you don't happen to have a block, that's okay. You can certainly do this one without the block. I'm going to hand Andy here a block, and place it between your knees. If you do happen to have one, we're going to place it between the knees the narrowest way, and then align the feet so that they're right underneath the knees. Good. And before we begin any movement here, just notice the natural curves in the spine. So notice that low back curve. Now begin to squeeze the block energetically between the knees. And then we're going to start into a bridge lift in just a moment here, but first I want you to flatten the low back curve out. So think about tailbone coming forward. Good. And then begin to lift up one vertebra at a time into a bridge pose. Good. And then as you exhale, equally as slow, one vertebra at a time, lowering back down. Good. Let's do that a few more times. Nice and slow. Inhale to rise up. And exhale to lower down. Good. One more time. Inhale, rise up, and pause when you lift. Good. And stay here and just start to squeeze the block a little bit more energetically in between the thighs. And what we're looking to strengthen here is the core muscles. And for today's practice, just consider the core from the hips kind of up to the rib cage. So we want all the way around the muscles that support the spine. So we're strengthening that just a little bit here. Keep squeezing the block between the inner thighs, the knees. Don't forget to breathe. Think about the tailbone lengthening forward. Good. How about just one more breath? Good. And then lower down equally as slow, one vertebra at a time. Good. And then reach up and release the block from between the knees. And hug just the right knee in towards the chest. Good. Roll that right ankle in little circles, maybe point and flex the foot. Good. And now for this one, we're going to use a strap. So if you happen to have a strap, we can use it. You can also do this one without the use of a strap. So we're going to take the strap, maybe a tie or even a towel if you happen to have one, over the bottom of the foot. So let's go ahead and place that right over the bottom of the foot. Grab hold of either edge, end, and begin to straighten the leg up towards the ceiling, as straight as you can get it without forcefully trying to straighten. Good. And now extend your left leg all the way down on the floor. Good. So is that enough for you?
That's good.
Okay. So what you want to feel here is just a light stretch in the hamstrings. We don't want the leg to be overworking here. We don't want the muscles to be overworking. And what's really important is that you continue to focus on the breath. So think about lengthening up through the heel. Good. Make sure the low back is still on the floor. And just take a few more breaths. And see if maybe with each exhale you can let the leg come a little bit closer to you. Good. And as that right leg is coming towards you, see if you can lengthen the left heel away from you. How about just one more breath here? And now bend into your left knee, place the sole of your left foot on the floor, and cross your right ankle over the left thigh. Good. So I'll take that strap for you. And just start to open and close that right knee. Good. And here's where this one's subjective. All of the poses are subjective, but if you have space here, feel free to lift up your left foot and interlace the hands behind the left thigh. Relax the left foot, relax the left shin. Just focus on the breath. We're in no rush. Let's take 3 more rounds of breath here. End of that last exhale, go ahead and release, uncross both legs. Good. And just hug the left knee in towards your chest now. And begin to roll that left ankle in little circles, maybe point and flex the foot. Good. And then we'll get into the hamstrings just a bit here. So taking your strap and placing it over the ball of the foot. Good. And as soon as you're ready, go ahead and straighten that leg up towards the ceiling. And just check in. So remember not to go too far. Once you feel comfortable, lengthen your right leg all the way down onto the mat. And then see if you can lengthen up through the heel just a little bit. Good. But root down through the low back. So we want the low back to be pressing down. Try not to hold the breath. Maybe even closing the eyes here and really tuning into what's happening in the body. Notice if you have the space with each exhale to let the leg come a little bit closer to you, or if you could maybe lengthen that right heel away from you. more breaths here. Good. And now just bend into your right knee and cross the left ankle over the right thigh. Good. And I'll take the strap. So that'll be the end of using the strap, so you can just set that to the side. And again, just start to open and close the knee. Kind of notice how the hip feels there. And then if you have the space, feel free to pick up your right foot, interlace the hands behind the thigh, hug the knee towards you. Good. Relax the low back down. Just starting to warm up the body here. How about 3 more breaths? At the end of that third exhale, go ahead, release the right foot, uncross the left leg, and then just take a moment to notice how everything feels, if anything has changed at all. And take a deep breath in through the nose. Exhale, let it go. Good. All right, so let's place a bend in both of the knees. Now we're going to start to get into the core a little bit, just kind of waken up some of the core muscles. So let's start by lifting the hips up as if you're about to go to bridge pose, maybe just a few inches. Good. Now take your fingers, your peace fingers, and place them on your hip points, your frontal hip bones, and just notice where they are in space. And you can keep your fingers there if you want to, or you can move them, but you're going to try to keep those areas level. So now pick up your right foot just a few inches, and then set it back down. And then pick up your left, and set it back down. And then just continue doing that, continue to march the feet back and forth. And so what we're really working with here is stabilizing some of the muscles that support the spine. Trying not to sway the hips, trying to keep everything nice and tight. Good. This looks easy, but after doing it a few times, it starts to become a little bit more challenging. Let's keep going just for a few more breaths. Are you okay here?
Mm-hmm.
Take 2 more rounds each side. Lower back down. Good. Take a deep breath to fill up the belly, kind of stretching out some of those muscles we just worked. And as you exhale, let it go. Good. So we're going to do one more thing on our backs here before we flip over. So bring your knees in towards your chest. Just give them a little hug there. Flex your feet. And let's lengthen the tailbone towards the bottom edge of your mat there. So lengthen the tailbone forward. And now take your hands just to the tops of your knees, one hand on each kneecap, and push your knees away from you so that the knees are stacked over the hips. Good, now lift your shins so they're parallel to the ceiling. Release the hands back down to the floor, and actually take your arms out to a goalpost shape. Good. Good, flex your feet. Good. Now, what's really important here is that we keep the low back down on the floor pretty securely. So think about imprinting your low back onto the mat. So there shouldn't be any space between your low back and the floor. And now from here, keep that, press your upper back into the floor. Lengthen the back of your neck a little bit so your chin is, good. And now as you inhale, tap just your right toes down to the floor. And then lift it back up, keeping the low back on the mat the whole time. Good, now tap your left toes down. Good, and then back up. Good, and then just keep doing that. So we'll do that for a few repetitions. Keep the low back down, keep pressing the upper back down. You can even press the back of your head into the floor here. Good. And come up even slower than you lower down. So as you tap the toes down, come back up even slower. Good. Doing okay?
It's not that easy.
Good, keep going. Just a few more repetitions. So again, we're strengthening this whole area here in the midsection. We're really starting to wake up some of the deep layers of abdominal muscles that really help to give us good posture, that really help to support our spine. Take just one more each side after this. One more on the left. Good. And then bring the knees into the chest. Good. Give them a little hug. Good. And bring your arms out to a T or a goalpost shape here. And go ahead and drop your knees to the right and take your gaze to the left. Good. Take a deep breath in through the nose. Exhale, let it go. Just relax for a minute. So really important here that we engage those same muscles we were just working as we pull the knees back through center. So before you take the knees back in, begin to engage those same muscles, those abdominal muscles we connected with, and then bring the knees back up. So the legs are really heavy, so we're just kind of helping out here so there's no strain on the back. And now as you exhale, drop the knees to the left and gaze to the right. Good. And nice deep breath here in through the nose. Exhale, let it go. And just relax here for a moment. Good. And now the same thing, so really contracting, engaging those abdominal muscles, bring the knees back up. And then hug the knees into the chest. And from here, you can either rock forward or backward and come all the way through to a child's pose, or rock onto one side or the other and make your way up to child's pose. So just as a reminder, child's pose is toes together, knees out wide, stretching those arms out in front of you. Good. See if you can relax the hands, the forearms down on the floor. See if you can relax between the shoulders here. Relax the hips back towards the heels. And just taking a few breaths in this transition pose. Let's take one more round of breathing. And rise up to hands and knees. So table pose. For this one, creases of the wrists under the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. Good. And let's start with taking the right arm forward, thumb facing the ceiling. Good. So drop that right shoulder down just a tad bit there and lift the right arm just a little bit higher. Good. Now, see if you can reconnect with that engaging of the abdominal muscles. Really squeeze in really tightly to support the low back. And really carefully now slide your left leg back. And go ahead and lift that left leg up so the toes are no longer on the floor. Good. So with this one, something really common that happens is the outer hip likes to rotate out. So see if you can drop this outer hip down. Good. And breathe. Keep that right arm lifted. Keep pressing your left hand into the mat. And really to support that left shoulder, imagine dialing your left thumb forward. So external rotation in the left arm. Take a deep breath in. See if you can stretch the hand and the foot a little further away from each other. And then exhale, crunch it in. Elbow to knee around the spine. Good. Inhale to extend. Exhale to crunch. Inhale to extend. One more time. Exhale, crunch. Good. And then set the knee and the hand back down to the floor. And why don't we take a few rounds of cat-cow between sides here. So go ahead. Drop the belly, lift the gaze, and then round the spine, drop the head. Good. Take one more round. Good. And now just coming back to that neutral table pose. Nice. Take the left arm forward. Good. And we want to bring the arm approximately in line with the ear, as close as you can get to without creating a lopsided effect in the rest of the upper body there. Good. And now take the right leg back behind you and lift the leg up. So again, here's a little bit of external rotation, so drop the outer left hip down just a bit, and the leg can go as high as the hip. Drop down that outer hip just a bit. Good. Push your right hand into the mat. Imagine dialing your right thumb forward. Breathe. Squeeze the navel in towards the spine. On your next inhale, stretch the hand and the foot further away from each other. And then as you exhale, round in. Hug the elbow towards the knee. Good. Inhale, extend. And exhale, elbow to knee. Good. One more time. Inhale. Exhale. And then set the foot and the knee back down on the floor. And let's take a child's pose. Bring the big toes to touch, knees apart. And just really let any work in the abdomen go. Feel the entire body filling with air. Just relax into this for a few more breaths. Rise back to hands and knees. All right, so coming back to table pose, scoop back an inch or so on the mat here. Good. Now tuck the toes, and all we're going to do here is lift the knees maybe an inch off the floor. So we're just going to hover, the knees off the floor. We're not changing anything else about the rest of the shape of the pose here. So the palms are pressing down. Imagine dialing the hands away from each other. So the thumbs are dialing forward. Keep breathing. If this is a little bit too challenging, this one can be skipped for sure, but we're really getting into the core and even the quads in this one. See if you can begin to sink your hips back towards your heels just a little bit. One more breath if you're still breathing. Good. And downward facing dog. Lift the hips up and back, stretch back to downward facing dog, and feel free to pedal the feet back and forth here if you'd like to now, stretching out the backs of the legs a little bit. Good. And now rising to the tippy toes. And as you exhale, step both feet to the front of the mat. Good. Inhale, lift halfway, find length. Exhale, fold. Interlace the hands over the elbows here and just let the whole upper body relax. So drop the weight of the head down. Good. So if you're feeling a lot of strain in the low back in this one, I would recommend just a softness in the knees, or maybe even a deep bend in the knees if you're really tight in the back line of the body. Good. And we're going to come up in a really safe way this first time. So bring your hands to your hips, extend through the crown of the head, and come up with a nice straight spine. So rise all the way up to standing. Good. As you inhale, take the arms all the way up and overhead. And exhale, hands to the heart. Good. And then just pause there for a moment. If you have blocks, you're going to bring them now to the front of your mat and right in front of your feet. So now inhale, arms rise. Exhale, fold forward, plant the hands on the blocks. Good. And so the blocks have a few different levels here, so if you need them to be a little bit higher, you're welcome to take them up higher or lower if that works better for you. And now step back with the left foot. So a really long stance here. We're going to prep for warrior 2 feet. So pause here first for just a moment. Relax the shoulders away from the ears. Good. Now, keep your right hand down on the block. Pivot and plant your left heel so that your left toes are now facing the long edge of the mat. Good. Now extend your left arm straight up towards the ceiling. Good. And so for this one, we want to make sure that the block is right under the shoulder. So let's scoot this one back just a little bit. Good. Good. Now, really important here before we rise up is that you engage the abdominal muscles to support the spine. Push down through the outer edge of this left foot. So you're going to push down here and now rise up to warrior 2. Nice. Good. So relax the shoulders down and away from the ears. Good. Engage the inner thigh muscles here. We're going to get into the obliques just a little bit while we're standing. So let's take a side angle pose. Bring your right forearm to your right thigh and swim your left arm all the way over your left ear. Good. So in this one, we want to make sure that we're not placing all of the weight of this arm on the leg. It's just kind of resting there lightly. And good. And we're still engaging the inner thighs here. And now the option is to stay here. So this can be really challenging as a pose all by itself. But if you want to challenge your obliques, you could take your right arm forward as well and hover that up in the air. Good. Keep trying to keep the body open. Bring your inner knee towards your outer knee on that front leg. Couple more breaths here. One more breath. Good. Rise back up to warrior two. Good. As you exhale, swim the hands back down to those blocks. Pivot onto the ball of your left foot and then just drop your left knee down to the floor. Good. Inhale, bring the arms all the way up in the air for a nice low lunge, pushing forward into those left hip flexors. Just for a moment. And now as you exhale, drop the hands back down to those blocks, shift your hips back, and let's take a hamstring stretch on that right side. So we're just doing the best we can here. Maybe lifting those right toes up if you have the space. You can keep them down on the floor if you need to. See if you can drop the weight of the head. And while you're here, see if you can think about internal rotation in the legs. So it almost feels like the sit bones are broadening here. Imagine the crown of your head reaching towards your toes. Make sure you're breathing. Good. Taking one more breath here. Good. And now slowly re-bend into that right knee. Tuck the left toes, lift the left knee, and now step your left foot to the outside of your right foot at the front of the mat. Good. And then again, you can come up a little higher on the blocks if you need to here. And just fold in. So for this one, we're getting into the IT bands a little bit. This one's really tough if you're really tight in that back line of the body, but just do the best that you can. Maybe even close the eyes. If you feel unbalanced in this one, feel free not to take it. Good. Inhale, lift just halfway, uncross the legs, and then exhale, refold. Good. Inhale, swim the arms all the way up and overhead. Exhale, hands to the heart. Good. Inhale, arms rise. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lift halfway, bring the hands to those blocks. And now step your right leg to the back of the mat. Good. Again, a really nice long stance. Relax the shoulders away from the ears here. Pivot and plant your right heel so that your right toes are now facing the long edge of the mat. Good. Now raise just your left arm up in the air for a siding other arm. Left arm. Right arm. Good. Good. So from here, again, engage the inner thighs. Hug the front heel towards the back foot. And now begin to engage the core muscles. Good. And now rise all the way up to that warrior two pose. Nice. Relax the shoulders down just a tad. Good. Breathe. Good. And side angle pose. So taking that left arm to the left thigh, right arm up and overhead. Good. And again, you can stay right here if you want to. If you really want to challenge that side body on both sides, you can take the left arm forward as well. Keep trying to spiral the right shoulder back in space. Yep. Good. Remember that we're pressing down through the outer edge of the foot here so that we can protect the ankle, protect the knee. How about one more breath? Good. Inhale, rise back to warrior two. Exhale, swim the hands down to those blocks. Pivot onto the ball of the right foot. Drop the right knee down to the floor. Good. Inhale, low lunge. So swim the arms up and overhead. Push forward into that right hip just a bit. Good. And as you exhale, drop the hands down to the blocks. Shift the hips back, and let's take that hamstring stretch. Good. Drop the head down. So if you do need the blocks when you're in a pose like this, best to have them right under the shoulders so you're not reaching out for them. Good, but relax the shoulders, so bend the elbows, yeah. Good. How about two more breaths? See if you can let the upper body be just a little heavier. Good. And now re-bend into that left knee. Tuck the right toes, lift the right knee. And we're going to step the right foot to the outside of the left foot at the front of your mat. Good. Inhale, lift halfway, find length. And exhale, fold. Relax into this if you can. Trying to press both feet down into the floor. And just notice, this one doesn't have to be perfect. None of them have to be perfect. Good. Inhale, lift halfway, uncross the legs. Exhale, refold. Good. Inhale, take the arms all the way up and overhead. Exhale, hands to the heart. Good. Inhale, take the arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Good. Inhale, lift halfway, find length. And then step back to downward facing dog. Good. Take a moment there. And then let's drop the knees to the floor and lay all the way down onto your belly into a Sphinx pose. So for this one, the forearms are going to be on the floor, elbows are going to be right underneath the shoulders, so walk your elbows forward a little bit more, and let's just start relaxing into it. So drop the head if that feels good. If it doesn't feel good, you can lift it up. Yep. Yeah, you can use a block to catch your forehead, and see if you can just kind of relax the low back here. So you want that to be pretty comfortable. And just come back to noticing the breath for a minute, maybe even feeling the belly pressing into your mat as you breathe in. Let's take maybe 3 or 4 more full rounds of breath here. Enough rest. Let's lift the head up. Good. Release that block out of the way for now. I'll take it. And walk your feet together. Walk your knees together. And begin to press your knees actively down into the floor. Press your forearms actively down into your mat. And let's actually first just imagine dragging the elbows back towards the hips. Notice the sensation you feel in the core here. And then maybe try the opposite. Press the elbows energetically away from you without the arms actually moving, so isometrically, and just notice what's working. And then maybe find a common middle ground there. Good. Now, keep pressing the forearms down in the floor, keep pressing the knees down, and begin to lift the ribs just a little bit higher. Begin to lift the belly, keep pressing the knees down. Begin to lift the hips up off the floor. Good. Lift the thighs up off the floor. Don't drop the head. So yeah, good. So crown of the head forward. Broaden through the shoulders. There's a lot of core work going on in here all the way around, strengthening the erectors, strengthening the abdominal muscles. How about one more breath? And then lower back down the opposite way that you lifted up. So thighs, belly, relax down. You can go ahead and relax the head again for a moment if you want to. We're not going to be here for too long, though. Good. Let's do that another time. So lift the head back if the neck is long. Press the knees down. Begin to elevate the ribs. Lift the belly. Good. Lift the hips. Lift the thighs. Press the knees down. And then maybe even incorporating those isometric drags, so you could isometrically drag your elbows back towards your knees. See what that feels like. Maybe try the opposite, isometrically press the arms in the opposite direction. One more breath. Good. And then go ahead and lower back down. And this time lower all the way down to your belly and turn onto your left cheek. Good. So just relaxing here. Notice how that felt in the low back. And again, just noticing the belly breathing. Maybe taking a moment to just reconnect to the rhythm and the pace of the breath. Just a few more rounds of nice deep breath here. Slowly sliding the hands back under the shoulders. Press your way back up to a table pose. And then just slide your legs out to one side or the other and come to a seated position. And go ahead and stretch your legs out in front of you for this one first. Good. And really important for our core is that we have a strong spine and that the muscles that support the spine are really strong. So walk your feet together just like we had a moment ago. Keep the feet flexed, stretch your arms straight up towards the ceiling, and try to sit up as tall as you can. Now, if you're really tight in the back line of the body, this one's really hard. So if you want to, you can soften your knees a little bit. You could even place a block underneath each of your knees to create some slack in the hamstrings. See if you can take your arms back in space another inch. See if you can lift up through the sternum just a little bit more. Breathe. You okay?
Mm-hmm.
Fold forward. Good. And just drop the weight of the head. It's not really important to touch your toes. If you can, that's great. And if not, you can just let the arms rest alongside you. And then slowly come back to sitting up, stacking the spine. All right, so for this next one, I'm going to give you a few variations here. So we're going to take a boat pose, but we're going to start with a really supported boat to begin with. So just start by bending your knees, soles of the feet on the floor, and bring the arms back behind you. Yeah, fingers facing forward. Squeeze your elbows in, shoulder blades together, lift up the chest. Good, take your neck back a little bit. Good. Now, for some of us, this might be enough. This might be enough just to kind of hold this pose. If you have some space though, or if you have some strength left, go ahead and lift up your feet and take your shins parallel to the ceiling. Nope, so come squeeze back up a little bit and lift just the shins. There we go. Yeah. So you could also do this one leg at a time. Keep squeezing the elbows in to lift the chest. Good. So again, you can stay right here if you want to. If you want a little bit more, you could take the arms forward, but keep thinking about that length in the spine, that lift in the chest. Breathe. Good. If you wanted a little bit more, you could take this Ardha Navasana, so lengthen the legs straight. Yeah, take the arms out. Breathe. Good. And hug it back in and up. Set the feet down on the floor and lay down on your back, but scoot forward a little bit here. Good. So we're just going to take another moment again just to let those abdominal muscles relax before we ask them to do just one more thing. So as you're laying here breathing, really filling up the belly, really expanding the belly. Just finding some balance between effort and ease in our practice. And taking just one more breath. Good. All right, so for this next one, the idea is to get the deepest layer of abdominal muscles involved. We did this a little bit at the very beginning. This is probably my favorite way to get in there. So bring the feet together, the legs together, flex the feet. Just let the big toes touch. And take your peace fingers again, like we did at the beginning there, and just kind of palpate your hips, the hip bones, the frontal hip bones. Good. Now, imagine that you're trying to press the hip bones in a little bit closer towards each other, so towards the midline. And you'll feel a little bit of engagement there in the low belly. We want to keep the low back down, thinking about the tailbone lengthening forward. Good. Now, you can release the fingers if you want, or you can keep the hands there if you like that feedback. But just imagine lifting both of your feet up off the floor, but don't let them actually go anywhere. So really engaging the low belly, and then we're going to take it up another level here. So now keep all of that, and bring your right hand behind your head, and your left hand to the floor next to you, palm down. Good. Lift your head, neck, and shoulders up. Gaze in the direction of your toes. Good. Keep pressing your low back down into the floor. imagine lifting both of your feet up and lift just your left heel an inch. Good. So barely lifting up off the floor here. Good. Make sure you're breathing. It's kind of hard to breathe really deeply here, so maybe a little shallow breathing is okay in this one. Good. Now, if your left toes start to point out to the left, here's where that left hand can come into play. Press your left palm into the mat and imagine pushing it away from you. Yeah, so that should just kind of dial your leg back into place. How about one more breath? Good, and release everything. Breathe deep into the belly, fill it up. And let it go. Good, and let's do that same thing other side. So beginning at the beginning, fingertips come to the hip points. And I think it's helpful to use imagination here. So maybe imagine putting on a pair of drawstring pants here and kind of tightening them up right around the waist. Press the low back down, lengthen the tailbone forward, good. Now bring your left hand behind your head, right hand to the floor next to you. Good, and for just a moment, imagine lifting both of your feet without allowing them to go anywhere. Good, keep that, and then lift your head, neck, and shoulders up off the floor, gaze towards your toes. Good, keep all of that, lift just your right heel an inch. Good. And just keep breathing the best that you can here. Again, if you need a little bit more feedback, you could press your right hand into the mat and imagine pushing it away from you. Almost there. Good. And release. Good. Breathe deep into the belly. And let it go. And now let's place a bend in the knees, soles of the feet right on the floor here. I'm going to hand you this block and I just want you to lift the hips up and slide it underneath your sacrum. Good. So just some really passive stretching for those abdominal muscles that we just worked. Nice little release for the low back here. Most of the effort is done. And feel free to stay right here. We're going to get just a little bit of hip flexor stretching in. So draw the right knee in towards the chest now. Give it a nice squeeze. And slide your left leg all the way down on the mat. Just relax that left leg completely. So if you need to let it fall out to the side, you can. See if you can relax your right foot. Let the top part of your left thigh be heavy. Let's take 3 more breaths. Release the right foot down, bend into your left knee, good, and then hug that left knee into your chest. Yeah, stretch the right leg out, good, letting that right leg just be heavy and relaxed. Just a few more breaths here. Release the left foot down, bend into your right knee. Good, lift the hips up, let's slide that block away, I'll get it. Good, lower all the way back down to the mat. Hug the knees in towards your chest. Good, and then just flex your feet and you're going to press your heels forward as you pull your knees towards you. Good, release the arms out to a T or a goalpost shape. And drop your knees to the right as you take your knees to the left. And taking a deep breath here in through the nose. Exhale, let it go. Taking one more breath here. Remember to engage just lightly those abdominal muscles to pull the knees back up through center. And as you exhale, drop the knees to the left. Take your gaze to the right. Good. Deep breath in through the nose. And exhale, let it go. Slowly bringing those knees back up through center, wrapping the arms around the knees, rounding in just one last time here, bringing forehead towards the knees. Good. And then release all the way down, extending both of your legs out, releasing your arms alongside you. Relaxing your shoulders down and away from your ears. Let's take just one more deep breath here in through the nose. Exhale, let it go. Enjoy your Shavasana.